The story begins one night where a woman is in labor giving birth to a baby boy, only that immediately as this baby is born the strongest magic users of all feel that something has happened. The mana around them resonates strongly. This woman here, I cannot say what she is. She says that someone with gigantic power has just turned the world upside down. In the skies a rare astrological phenomenon could be seen. One of the magicians of creation who is basically an almost divine being who can only be three at once in the world says that it is incredible that a human is born with so much power and that it can only be a miracle. So the father puts his son in his arms and shows the baby to the mother. His name is Simba, the protagonist of our story with an epic birth. Some years pass. The purple-haired man was on his fishing boat. While he was going over the equipment he found his son Simba sleeping under the net. Later in the day while fishing they both fall victim to a heavy storm. The man, who was desperate about the situation, heard his son's voice when he pointed them in the right direction to escape the storm. After that the father holds Simba on his lap and says that he really must have some kind of power and that someday this power would change the world. The best thing about Simba's father is that he is not a psychic, but he really was right about his son's future. So 2 years go by. One day when Simba was taking lunch to his father appears a group of people calling him a traitor. Explanation is that these last 2 years the country they live in has declared war against a neighboring nation that reflected on the economy of the country. The boy's father, despite being an ancient warrior, he did not want to participate in the battle because of his disability. The guy has only one leg, but for these people none of this matters. They have to win the war at any cost, and even a handicap does not help. Not do anything to contribute to the war is unacceptable. Sometime later he wakes up and realizes that his food was all over the floor. He picks it up, taps it a few times to remove the dirt, and with a smile says that he could still eat, but he is not happy. He asks his father why he didn't fight back, and runs out of there while calling his own father a coward. A scene of sadness for Simba and regret for his father. The next day the boy ends up finding this guy passed out on the side of the well where they get water. The blonde man thanks him and introduces himself. "You give a merchant shipwreck victim, I know." It turns out that Simba has become very attached to this guy because he has spent many nights listening to stories of his adventures around the world, and for this boy who has never left the village, Darius stories are like wild men. So the days go by and some soldiers go to the boy's house in search of a spy. The guards are destroyed by the men, and to avoid being killed he takes the boy hostage. In fact, his name is still given, but he is one of the generals of the enemy army and not the merchant as he had said. Despite the mother's pleading with the surrounding population, no one wanted to help the boy, son of the traitorous cripple who didn't go to war just because his father wasn't there. He puts his head on the ground and asks the infiltrator to turn himself in, so that his life would be spared, but as is already in the script, he refuses, says that unlike him, Simba's father, he is not a coward who does not help his country. And there, my friend, that was the last straw. The guy gave the opportunity. He makes the quick move with the only leg he has and finishes Darius off with just one blow, so that his family would not be punished for harboring a spy. Simba's father, a former war hero, was forced to return to the battlefield. It turned out that a few months later his family was notified that he had been killed in action. His body was returned home with only his sword, and 9 years later we see a teenage boy saving a group of women from some bandits who had escaped from military service, and to thank him they decide to give him some fruit. And so he finds it hiding inside a barrel. The two go to Simba's house because the wanderer who looks like an elf had nowhere to stay. The next day the boy who left early to work as a porter at the port is beaten up by a group of soldiers saying that he ignored several orders to join the military. The soldier here, who is actually a general, says that the war is happening because of a tower that appeared on the border of the two countries. So they say, right? Just a rumor that the tower grants powers beyond human comprehension. In short, if Simba ignores the military enlistment, his mother will also suffer. And so the boy ends up feeling very sad about the situation. He tells Willen that more than 10,000 people were sent to that tower and all of them died. In other words, if he goes, he dies, and if he stays, he dies too. Then the blonde man says, "If you are dissatisfied with the situation of the country, then why don't you become the king?" Then I feel the question, how? How can I become a king? And Nan answers that in the tower he will find what is necessary for this to happen. Then, Carrying his father's sword that his mother gave him, Simba challenges the army saying that he will get the power from the tower, and rushes towards the entrance where he is waiting for him, but he gives a warning. Once Simba enters he will only be able to leave after he completes but die. And without avoiding he enters the tower in search of the power that can make him a king.